Good morning, afternoon, or evening, y'all. My name is Shannon, and today we're going to be going over some of my favorite romance books, which I'm going to break down into categories of regular romance books, YA romances, which is a very small category, I will give you that, and then romantasy. And I have like 30 plus books I want to bring up, so I'm going to try my very hardest to get through these books as fast as possible. So let's just get started. If you can hear my dog with his toy, I'm so sincerely sorry, but the show must go on. So the first category we're gonna do is just regular romance books, and the first one for that I have is By a Thread by Lucy Score. This was one of my first Lucy Score books I ever read. I absolutely ate it up. This book is about Dominic and Allie, and he is dining in a restaurant where she works one day and ends up getting her fired, actually. But the woman he is dining with happens to be his mother, and goes and finds her after they eat their meal and is like, I would love to hire you at my fashion business. Please come here and you will have a job. And she ends up having to work very closely with Dominic, and it gets so interesting. There are some very interesting dynamics and how Dominic considers like the power dynamic between a boss and employee. It's a very, very good book. I rated it 5 stars when I read it in 2023. The next book we have is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I, again, read this in 2023, absolutely ate it up, rated it 5 stars. This book is about Alex and Henry, and Alex is the first son of the United States, and Henry is a prince of England, and they loathe each other. They have consistently not liked each other for years, when all of a sudden a public scandal happens between the two of them and they have to like fake a friendship, and it's so good. I absolutely ate it up, and the movie is also very, very good, but all of the characters in this book just gave me such a homey feeling. I just absolutely loved it. The next one, another Lucy Score book, Things We Never Got Over. I'm so sorry, I know it's like repetitive, but I have to mention it. This book is so outstanding. This book is about Knox and Naomi. And Naomi has just recently come to this very, very small town and is instantly disliked by a lot of people because she happens to look exactly like her identical twin sister, who is hated in this town. But her twin sister is nowhere to be found. Her daughter is, though. She left her 11-year-old daughter, I believe, for Naomi to take care of. And Knox very reluctantly agrees to kind of like help her. He finds her a place to live. She ends up working in his restaurant. It is so good, and all the books in that series, the Knock 'Em Out series, are so good. That is just my personal favorite within the series. Next, I'm so sorry, so many of these books are going to be repetitive if you have consistently watched my channel, but they're my favorite romance books for a reason. I don't know what to tell you. Next we have Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hate series. I adore this series with all my heart. It is one of, if not my favorite series ever. This series, that's my dog's tail if you're wondering, follows the romances between Daisy Hates and Christian Hems and Magnolia Parks and BJ Valentine. And it is incredibly toxic, incredibly wealthy families and friendships, and there's so much toxicity. There's gangs and art thieves. It's an exceptional series. I honestly don't even know how to describe it, but there's something so incredibly special about the way that Jessa Hastings writes that just absolutely itches my brain in the right way. And I would recommend this series to absolutely anyone. I think it is absolutely worth the read. It's heartbreaking, it's beautiful, it's incredible. The next book I have is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I have tried a couple other Megan Brandy books, and I personally have not liked them. But this one, I read in one night. I ate the out of this book. Oh my gosh. This book is about Ariana, and it is kind of a love triangle between her and someone she's had a thing for forever in her like closest group of friends with her brother, and they've all been best friends for years. They all go to the same college together, but something happens between them where she's very depressed. This is where Noah comes in, who is one of the best book boyfriends of all time. If you don't want to read it for any other reason, read it for Noah, because he's an absolutely incredible book boyfriend. And oh my god, I love that man so much. But he and Ariana become like very good friends. He's always wanted to be something more, but he's been very understanding of the fact that she had feelings for someone else. But the dynamic starts to change, and it's such an incredibly good book. It's so good. The next book we have is A 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I actually just read this in December. I loved it. More than just a romance book, this story talked about how you love someone despite time changing them, and how you either love them or you don't. And it's an incredibly powerful message that this book provides, I feel like. But the story is about Clementine, who lives in a magic apartment where sometimes when she enters the apartment, it takes her back 7 years in time when someone named Ewan was living in that apartment. And it gets so interesting because their lives start meshing together in the present. So he knows her from back then. Meanwhile, she's getting to know him in the past and the present at the same time. And it's such an incredible story. I absolutely loved it. The next book. This is my favorite romance book of all time. I don't even need to think before I say that statement. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Oh my god. I cannot describe how much I love this book. I read it almost a year ago now, I think, and I was very apprehensive. It was my first classic. I was nervous about the language barrier between Old English and present, but I ate it up. I loved this story with all of my heart. If you don't know, this story is about Elizabeth and Jane Bennet, who are sisters, and we follow both of their respective love stories with Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy. The main character is Elizabeth, so we're only really seeing from her perspective, but it's just outstanding. The writing, the intricacies, the double meanings. Oh my gosh, the writing. I don't know how to explain this to you. It moved me so profoundly that it kind of wrecked every other romance book for me. Don't get me wrong, I still love certain romance books. It just made it much harder for me to enjoy a contemporary romance now. Anywho, next we have Happy Place by Emily Henry. Really, any Emily Henry book is astounding, but Happy Place specifically is my favorite. If you love 500 Days of Summer, you will love this book. I feel like the timeline for Happy Place is very similar to 500 Days of Summer because it consistently flips from when they were happy, when they were falling in love, to now when they are currently separated, and we start to see them kind of come back to each other. It is a beautiful story, and I was sobbing by the end. It was so good. The next book we have is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I loved this book so much. It is about Elsie and Jack, and Elsie has been moonlighting as a fake girlfriend for hire, and she has been fake dating Jack's brother, okay? And when she's pretending, she says she's a librarian. So it kind of strikes Jack as odd when she's at an interview for a theoretical physicist. And it just goes on from there. It's such an incredibly beautiful story. And Jack really, really teaches Elsie to kind of ask for what she wants and stop people pleasing. And I loved it so much. Next, just Elsie Silver. Any Elsie Silver books. We're gonna go through them very, very briefly, which, like, the ones I've read and what their tropes are. The entire Chestnut Spring series. We have Flawless, Heartless, Powerless, Reckless, and Hopeless. Reckless is probably my favorite because Theo is a gem, but Flawless is a boss's daughter bull riding romance. Heartless is a single dad, babysitter, grumpy sunshine kind of romance. Absolutely loved the kid in this book, and Willa has a very kind of fiery personality that I loved. Powerless was definitely my least favorite book in the series. So sorry. It is a friends to lovers, hockey player, ballerina romance. So good. Reckless was an accidental pregnancy trope. I loved this. I loved the character. I loved everything about her and Theo. Absolutely perfect. That book is 5 stars. And Hopeless was a marriage of convenience and neighbors. But these are all small town. Like, they all take place on, like, a ranch, basically. Such a good series. And then you have the Wild Love series, which is so far Wild Love and Wild Eyes. Both single dad romances. One is brother's best friend. The other is kind of reverse grumpy sunshine. And One of Us is Famous trope. They were also good. All of our books I have rated 4+ stars. Such an incredible author. Next, we have the Never After series by Emily McIntyre. Specifically, the first 2 books. Because Hooked, I rated 5 stars, and Scarred, I rated 5 stars. Don't know if I would still rate them 5 stars, but these are dark romances that are kind of retellings, where Hooked is a Peter Pan retelling where Wendy falls in love with Captain Hook, and Scarred is a Lion King retelling where I believe Nala falls in love with Scar. But they're so good and I ate them up. Absolutely. The next one we have is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This was so good. I rated it like 4.5 stars. I absolutely adore the MMC in this. It's a small town, kind of like opposite worlds story where Alexis is an ER doctor and Daniel kind of is running an inn kind of thing. And they end up having their lives intersect and they're just immediately drawn to each other. It's also a reverse age gap where the woman is like 8 years older, I think. But it's an incredible story, and the second book in this series, Yours Truly, is also very good, but this was my personal favorite. The next one we have is The Bromance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams. I have only read the first 2 books in this series, which is The Bromance Book Club and Undercover Bromance, but just the concept and idea of this series is so good, and the books are very good as well. The first one is a marriage in trouble, and the second is like an enemies to lovers kind of thing. But basically, these men come together for a book club where they read romance books as kind of manuals to finding love, to keeping love, how to be a good partner in a relationship. It's just, that concept is golden. I have no idea how she came up with it, but honestly, it's brilliant, and I don't know how it isn't currently a thing in the real world. Next one, I have to say it, I talk about this series all the time, Boys of Tommen series. I will talk about this series till the day I die. Johnny and Shannon are absolutely everything to me. Those are the first 2 books in the Boys of Tommen series, Binding and Keeping 13. I read both of those books combined in 2 days. For context, those are like 600-page books. I love that series so much. It follows a group of friends and their relationships. We start off with Shannon, who falls in love with Johnny after he accidentally hits her in the head with a rugby ball, but it's so much more than that. There are some very, very dark things going on in Shannon's life, and Johnny kind of wants to save her from these things going on. It's just such an incredible, beautiful story, and I love it with all my heart. Rated both of the books 5 stars. Those are the only books I've fully read, so I can't speak on the rest of the series, but I will non-stop talk about those series till the day I die. The last book we have for just the romance section is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I have to mention it. And this is the book that got me into reading romance. It is about Archer and Bree, and Archer has really been isolated by this small town, and Bree kind of comes in and wants to be his friend and kind of turns his whole world upside down. And it is a beautiful, beautiful story about love and acceptance and all the cozy things. It's just such a good book, and I read it like once a year now at this point. Okay, now for YA romances. We literally only have 3 for me to mention because I'm not really into YA romance. I'm into YA fantasy, but it's not the same. First, we have Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I love this book so much. It is a chess romance where Mallory has unintentionally gotten back into the chess game by beating a grandmaster, I believe, which is like the big kahuna in chess, and it was just so cute. That's basically the only word I ever use to describe YA romances because they're so young. It's just such a cute book. I loved all of it. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get to see the full ending. You'll know what I mean if you read the book, but it was absolutely incredible and such a cute story. Next one we have is Maybe Meant to Be by K.L. Walther. Basically, any K.L. Walther book is a good YA romance. I've read, I believe, all of them that she has released, and they're all good, but I wanted to specifically mention this one. This is about Charlie and Luke and Sage and Nick. And Charlie and Sage have been best friends forever. Everyone thinks they're like meant to be together. But Charlie is very interested in a new guy that has come to their boarding school, and Sage is secretly dating Charlie's twin brother Nick. And it's just such a nice story about like being young and figuring it out while falling in love. And Charlie, we see a lot of him going through the process of like being gay and coming out, and that was so beautiful to read about. It was a really good book. The last YA romance I feel like I have to mention because it is the epitome of basically what a YA romance is. The Summer I Turned Pretty series. I'm sorry, I know everyone and their mother has heard about this series, but it is so good. It is about Isabel and Jeremiah and Conrad, and Isabel's family has been friends with Jeremiah and Conrad's family forever. They've been vacationing at this summer house since they were kids, and she has always had a thing for Conrad. And both of the brothers have basically always had a thing for her. So it's very love triangle, very complicated, but it's so good and so wholesome, and it has the perfect ending, in my opinion. I'm so excited for the last season to come out. I can't even describe it enough how excited I am. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for it to come out this year. Okay, now for the last section. Romantasy, definitely my favorite section. I love romantasy. I don't have as many books to mention just because I would say pretty new to the genre overall, but the books I love, I really love. So let's get into it. First one, Six of Crows. Rated this 5 stars. I read this back in October and it was so good. This is a heist book in a fantasy world where Kaz has to get this group of people together in order to pull off what is essentially the impossible heist. I had so much anxiety throughout this entire book, but there are multiple romances going throughout this duology, and one in particular, specifically one man in particular, I absolutely love with all my being. Let me see if I can find the quote that I'm thinking of right now. Yep, this is it. The ache in his lungs was unbearable. He needed to tell her, ... what? That she was lovely and brave and better than anything he deserved, that he was twisted, crooked, wrong, but not so broken that he couldn't pull himself together into some semblance of a man for her. Oh my god, I love him so much. Oh my god. And just an absolutely incredible duology and incredible romances throughout it as well. Next one, we have Once Upon a Broken Heart. This is absolutely one of my favorite YA fantasies ever. This is about Evangeline, and she's kind of desperate to stop who she believes to be the love of her life from marrying her sister. So she goes and prays to the Prince of Hearts, and he's like, okay, I'll grant your wish if you kiss 3 people of my choosing when I say so. And it goes on from there. The second book in the series was definitely my favorite. There is a video on my channel of me reacting to the end of the second book. Oh my gosh, I remember reading that like it was yesterday. Such an incredible series. I rated all of the books at least 4.5 stars. Next one, Divine Rivals. Dude. I love Rebecca Ross's writing so much. This story is about Iris and Roman, and they have been writing to each other on typewriters unknowingly for months. And Roman knows, but Iris doesn't know. And while they are getting to know each other that way, they are also rivals at this newspaper company and like competing for a promotion pretty much. But while all of that is going on, there is a massive war among gods going on, and things progress where Iris ends up writing about the war basically on the battlefront. And the writing, the romance, the way that I don't know what kind of crack Rebecca Ross put into this book, but the romance was like one of the most beautiful things I've ever read in my entire life. And the way they loved each other was so special to me. Next, we have the Shatter Me series. This series has been out for, I think, a decade at least now. So I'm gonna go ahead and spoil something, okay? This is an enemies to lovers, where Juliet has just been taken out of a mental asylum and is basically being planned to use as a weapon against people rebelling against the reestablishment. And the reason why she was in said mental institution is that she can kill people by touching them. And it is such an incredible series. The way that this girl transforms is absolutely incredible. The romance, oh my god, Aaron Warner is my top book boyfriend of all time. And he has been since I read the series. It's been years, and that has not changed. I love him so much. It's such an interesting series. Next one we have Cruel Prince, obviously. Jude and Carden. I was very apprehensive when I started reading this book because it is a bully romance. Because Jude has been pulled out of the human realm, her parents were killed, and she's been raised by the person that killed her parents in the Fae world. And at school, Carden, who is one of the princes of the Fae realm, consistently bullies her. Like, I remember filming the reading vlog for me reading this, and I was like, he's like a dick. Like, why do people like him? I did understand it later on, but I love this series. I have not finished the series. I've only read the first book, but I love Jude so much. I love morally gray female characters. I've said it so many times, I'll say it forever. Jude is the epitome of what a morally gray female character is, and I love her so much. Okay, next, I have to mention it, so sorry, ACOTAR. Yeah, this series starts originally as a Beauty and the Beast retelling, believe it or not. And like, once you hear that, you definitely can see the comparisons, but this series starts with Farah shooting a wolf who happens to be Fae, unbeknownst to her, and one day someone kind of comes barreling down her door and is like, who the f killed this guy? And she's like, that was me. And he's like, okay, you can either die right here in front of your family, or you can come live at my manor for the rest of your life. Obviously, she chooses the latter, and it goes on from there. But the romance in this series is incredible. He is one of my top book boyfriends ever, and there are so many intricate plots and storylines within this series that make me love it so much. But the romance is incredible as well. Next, again, I have to mention it, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book came out in June of 2023, and I think it really took everyone by storm with how crazy it popped off. It is How to Train Your Dragon meets Divergent. It is a writing academy where Violet has trained her entire life to be a scribe, but very close to the enrollment date, Violet's mother is like, actually, you're gonna be a writer. And she's like, what the f do you mean? I am not at all prepared for this. And she ends up joining the writer's quadrant, and things just kind of go on from there. There is a specific tall, brooding man that really does not like her at the start, and it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Oh my gosh. Next. This is a new series to me, so I haven't finished it. Zodiac Academy. I've read 4.5 because I'm halfway through the 4th book, and I tandem read the first one with As Told by the Boys, because they have the first book, which is The Awakening, and then they have The Awakening as Told by the Boys. And I obviously wanted the male point of view, so I tandem read it in like a day. It was like 1,000 pages. I ate that up. I loved this series so much so far. Every time I start to read one of the books, I cannot seem to put it down for the life of me. And if I did not have a self-preservation instinct, I would have sat in bed rotting until I finished this series. That is how much I enjoy these books. It is just so good. I do have to warn you though that the bully romance goes on for a while. Like a while. I am halfway through the 4th book, and they are still not done fully bullying these girls at this point. And I did get really aggravated, and I was like, when the fuck does it stop? Because this is insane. And I found a Reddit thread that said that it stops by the end of the 4th book. So I'm like, okay, I can wait that out. Anywho, incredible series. It is about these two twins, Tori and Darcy, where they discover that they are fae and have powers and have to go to the Zodiac Academy to learn about their powers. Also, they're the lost princesses of this realm, and the people who have taken over, the Celestial Heirs, all have children in this academy that want them gone, which is why the bullying romance comes in. And by bullying, I don't mean like, you're so stupid. Like, they legitimately like bully and torment and kind of torture these girls at one point. So just like be prepared. Do not go into it thinking it's gonna be easy, because it's certainly not. Next one, we have Serpent and the Wings of the Night. I read this book forever ago, and I don't know why I didn't continue it. I think it was just because I wanted to read a romance book at the time, but I know this series is incredible. It is about Araya and Rain, and Araya is like the orphan daughter of the Vampire King. She is completely human, but she's been raised by this guy her entire life, and he has been training her to enter what is essentially the Hunger Games vampire version. And in this tournament, she ends up making an alliance with Rain, who just like weirdly understands her, and they kind of like work together. And if you do win this tournament, you get a wish from their goddess. I don't remember her name, but the ending was absolutely crazy, and I'm so excited to continue this series. Next, the last 3 books I'm going to mention are probably some of my favorite fantasy books ever, and I have all read them within the past month and a half. Which means if you watch my channel, you've absolutely heard me talk about these books and yap about them incessantly for the past month because I love them that much. First one, Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is an enemies to lovers witch hunter and witch romance where Rune and Gideon have been lying to each other from the start of their courtship, where Rune is trying to get information from him and Gideon is trying to get information from her. And it is so good. The ending, absolutely crazy. Also a side note, Gideon's younger brother Alex is Rune's best friend, has been helping her break witches out of prison, and is also in love with her. So there's that little complication as well. But it's such an outstanding book. I rated it 5 stars. The last book in the duology literally comes out a week from today when I am filming this video. I am so excited for that book to come out. It's actually on my February TBR, and you bet your ass I will be reading it the day it comes out. Next one we have Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This book was so good. Oh my god, this book was so good. It is about Ceres, and she is living in a like desert world where her and her brother are living in like the poorest quadrant of this kingdom. They get 6 ounces of water a day in a desert, and it's like dirty water. It's like horrible. But she does something that gets her into a little bit of trouble, and she ends up being taken to the Fae realm by Fisher. And Fisher is an enigma in and of himself, but he needs her to help end this war that's been going on forever. And she has the very strange ability to manipulate Quicksilver, which is like a magic kind of metal that is like God infused or something. I don't know how to explain it, but this metal is sentient and it can be melded into weapons and all this stuff, and she has the very rare ability of being able to manipulate it. It's called an alchemist. It's such a good book. The Enemies to Lovers is incredible, and I absolutely ate up every single aspect of this book. The ending, absolutely crazy. I will be heavily anticipating the book when it releases this fall. Yeah. The last book I have to mention, this is my most recent 6-star read, which happens like once in a blue moon. I think I rated one book 6 stars last year, and it was Pride and Prejudice, Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Maz. I cannot describe how much I loved this book. This book is about Alexis, and she's grown up in an incredibly horrible, like Minnesota or Missouri, starts with an M, state, where she's grown up homeless for half of her life. And in this world, gods are very present. They rule over the world basically, and there are specific gods called Chthonics who fight titans. And what is so special about them is that their powers are pain. Like, they can cause others pain in separate ways. Like, their powers are all related to pain though. And one day she finds out that she is a Spartan, and she is taken and entered into the Crucible, which is an intense Spartan academy where they do not eat, sleep, or bathe for 2 weeks straight, and then they come home to their mentors' houses for 3 days and go back and do it again for months. And there are not 1, not 2, but 4 brooding MMCs in this book, and they're so morally gray. And I've seen a lot of people describe this series as a why choose series. I did not see it that way at all, because there are 2 groups of men that are interested in her, but both groups are in committed relationships. Like, I don't want to give any names, but there are 2 guys here and there are 2 guys here, and they are both in relationships with each other. They just would like Alexis to join them, basically. It's not really a why choose scenario. I don't know. Normally that kind of stuff weirds me out, but with mythic gods and that kind of stuff, it didn't weird me out. Maybe just because it's so normalized in mythology, but I didn't find it that weird. Absolutely incredible. I rated it 6 stars. I read it twice in 3 days. I loved everything about this book. I'm so excited for the Bonds of Hercules to come out. I cannot imagine where it's going to go. I'm so excited. But those are all the romance books I have to talk about. I think I yabbered on for like 45 minutes, so hopefully this video isn't too long. I sincerely hope you guys got some ideas for romance books that you would like to read. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I appreciate each and every single one of your beautiful faces, and I hope you are all having an absolutely incredible morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the world. Bye guys.